for waiting patiently. And here is Mr. Earl Morrow.
Hi. I've been in the area for a long time. I got into service. At that time, I was going to Iowa State College, and I sat there on Pearl Harbor Day and made up my mind I'm going home at the end of the semester and getting to service. And I hitchhiked from Iowa, got back home in 2 days up here in Hartford, New York, and told my dad what I was going to do, and he told me, no, you're not going to do that, you're going back to school. So I told him, I'm not going to school, I'm going in the service. And he was out of the draft board, he knew the rules and regulations, and he told me, you have to have my signature and you're not going to get it. So I went down to Schenectady, got a job at General Electric. And the day I was 21, I was over in the Army in Albany, applied for the aviation cadet program. I was one of 5 people out of 30 that made it through that day. And shortly out of in the service, I'd never been in an airplane in my life. First time was in January. Went through the primary training period, then we went through basic training period, and finally we go into the multi-engine retractable landing gear, things like that. And I got my wings and my grading as a second lieutenant in 6 months. And so 2 days later, I'm down in Oklahoma, shooting takeoff and landings in a Boeing B-17 Flying Fortress. At that time, it was the biggest plane that was flying with the services. In another 2 months, I had my rating on that airplane, and I got lucky, went up to Las Vegas and flew the airplane training gunners. And I didn't quite feel right about that. I wanted to get into the service, and then all of a sudden they told me, okay, you're going to get your crew. And we went down in Louisiana and got my crew. It was a crew of 10 men. I was an airplane commander, first pilot. I had a co-pilot, a navigator, a bombardier, and the rest of the boys were enlisted men who were sergeants and gunners. We took about 2 months of training, and we went overseas. The first mission I flew on, I was sitting in the co-pilot seat with an experienced crew. We get up there and we're flying out. All these missions are flown in formation by so many airplanes to a squadron, so many airplanes to a group, and your job is to fly as close to the plane you're flying off of as you can. First day we get out there, and I see these black puffs of smoke. And I asked the captain, I said, what in the world is that? He says, they're shooting at us. That's the ammunition that's exploding. And all of a sudden I woke up. What have I got myself into now? We got back. My second mission, I flew in the captain's seat. I had an experienced co-pilot for the rest of my crew. And the third mission, it was my complete crew. We were shot down on the 17th mission, but I'm going to tell you about another mission before that happened. We were going in across Belgium, and I don't remember what the target was, but we lost an engine going in, so we fed it. And so we're pulling full power on the other three just to stay in the formation going in. Just as we dropped the bombs on the target, we got a direct hit on number 3 engine. So now we're down to 2 engines running and 1 feathered and 1 windmilling. And the one that was windmilling, we had to get out of the formation. We're by ourselves now, clear over in Germany. The engine turned red hot, then white hot, and then it started breaking up and throwing parts into the airplane. And we tried to throw the prop off and we couldn't, so we just had to come back by ourselves. We did have a fighter that was staying with us, covering us. And we got so low that I couldn't fly more than 10 seconds in a straight line, and then turn, and then turn, and then turn, and all the way across the country there. And we finally got out to the channel, and with all that turning, my navigator directed me to a spot that they said there were no guns. Apparently it was a swamp. So we get out over the channel, now we're flying straight level, because we're real low now. We're concerned about getting over the cliffs of Dover and getting into land. And just as we got out over the channel, we got number 4 knocked out. Now we got 1 is feathered, 2 is running, 3 is windmilling, and 4 is feathered. We're working on 1 engine and 1 engine, just like a big old barn door holding us back. And we went through our ditching procedure, figuring if we can't get over the cliffs of Dover, we're going to have to dump it in the channel. We made it over the cliffs of Dover by a few feet, got the thing on the ground, and we couldn't get off the runway. They had to tow us off. The boys were out there and running around, kissing the ground. They counted the holes in the airplane. They counted over 100 holes, and some of them this big, and there wasn't a one of us scratched. That's one time we came back when they said there was no way in the world that airplane could even be in the air. A couple of missions later, we're going over into East Germany, hitting a synthetic oil plant. And when you went after the synthetic oil plants, the Germans, you know it's going to be a rough one. So we get over there, and we have fighter escort, and we drop our bombs, and we come off, and something happened. I've never figured out what it was, but we had 900 bombers up that day. And here's 900 bombers going this way, and all of a sudden our squadron of 36 airplane is going this way. And we called them and said, what's going on? Why aren't we going with a group? And we were ordered tersely to maintain radio silence. They were leading the formation. So we had no choice but to stay in there. Then our boys, our fighters that were covering us, they saw a bunch of German fighters off in the distance, and they left us to go fight them, and then a bunch of Germans hit us. They told me that my rudder vertical stabilizer was gone. These fighters would just come in behind you, throw down their gear and flaps, and start pumping you, 20 millimeters. And they said my rudder vertical stabilizer was gone. I saw about 8 feet go off my left wing, and I'm still flying that thing formation. About that time, the third wave of fighters came in, and they put 2 20 millimeters right in the cockpit beside my co-pilot and set us on fire. You have oxygen and fuel lines, and my top turret gunner came down out of his turret and grabbed the fire extinguisher, and we thought we had the fire out, and then it all flared up again, and so there's nothing to do now but give the bailout signal. We're at 28,000 feet, which is a little over 5 miles up. It's about 50 to 60 degrees below zero up there. I gave the bailout signal, and I grabbed my co-pilot, pulled him out of the seat, and got him headed down there. I didn't know how badly he was hurt. And I started to go down under to get out, and I felt the airplane climbing. I thought, now if this stalls out, nobody will get out of it. And I went back up, and I just pushed the control forward and got the nose down. And I went down, my co-pilot sitting there. I just put his foot in the middle of his back and kicked him out. And I sat down, and I rolled out, and she blew. If I'd been there 10 seconds longer, I wouldn't be here today. I got scared in the clouds. We didn't know, never jumped. I got in the clouds, and I got scared and afraid. If I open my chute in here, there might be wind gusts, and tear my chute to pieces. So I'm going to just hang on, and I'll break out around 10,000 feet maybe. When I broke out, I wasn't very much above the ground. I immediately pulled my ripcord. The parachute worked perfectly, and I looked around, and all I could see was people all over the area, and I uttered a few words that I won't say here because I knew I had no chance to escape or hide, and within seconds, I'm on the ground, almost stayed on my feet, but there's enough wind that it dragged me over backwards, but I'm 30 feet away from 3 women with pitchforks, and they weren't friendly. So I got out of that chute as I could, and I had a 45 strapped on me. I didn't take it out, but I unbuckled it, so they could see it, and they backed off, and I headed across the field, and they were coming with rifles, so I just sat down and let them come and get me. We got roughed up quite a bit, and they had told us if you get shot down, get under military control as soon as you could. And I saw a guy in the distance, looked like he might be in uniform, and I tried to get to him, and I got knocked around 2 or 3 times, and women spitting in your face, and kids throwing stones at you. But I finally convinced them, and I got under military control. They kept us in that area for 2 or 3 days. They did bring my co-pilot in later, and when we counted up, we figured out that I had lost 3 boys, and that's the way it turned out. Tail gunner got out, and we got out in front, and my co-pilot was all shot up. He was a mess, and farmer and his daughter hid him for a couple days, and then they got scared and turned him in, and they sent him somewhere beyond that. The rest of us, they took us down to interrogation, and we were in there for 4 or 5 days, and boy, they just hammered you to get information out of you. And about the 3rd or 4th day, they came out and they said, okay, if you won't tell us, we'll tell you. And they told me things that I didn't think my family knew. When I got in trouble in school and things like that. How we got the information, I don't know. We left there, they kept us there when they couldn't get anything out of us, and then they sent us to the POW camp. If any of you ever saw the movie The Great Escape, that's the prison camp they took us to. There were 10,000 of us in that camp, and they were all the flight officer type, pilots, navigators, co-pilots, and bombardiers. 10,000 of us. And the barracks, they were double barracks, and the beds were double, but when I got there, they'd added 2 on top of that, so I had to climb up to the 4th level to get in my bed. We were getting Red Cross parcels from the Red Cross, but the Germans were only allowing us a half a parcel. So you were hungry, And Christmas time, we had a party. They let us stay up to midnight, and we had a party going. Everybody would just sing a song or read from the Bible or something like that. And shortly after that, and it's winter time, shortly after that, they routed us out at, it was about 1 o'clock in the morning. We didn't have watches, we didn't know what time. They routed 10,000 of us out of and they said, take everything you got, you're on the road, you're moving. And they got us out there, they had dogs and they had machine guns, and when they said run, you ran. And we ran, and we walked, and we ran. About 5 that afternoon, they gave us a break of 30 minutes. I decided I had another pair of socks in my coat, and I decided I would change my socks, and I pulled my shoes off and got the socks changed, and my shoes froze, and I had a job getting my feet back in them. But I did. Then they got us on the road, and everything is all messed up now, and you're just keep moving, just keep moving. And they told us that if anybody fell out, the Germans just run them through with a bayonet and leave them there. But eventually I got to the stage where I just figured I can't go any further. If I just sit down, I'll fall asleep, they'll bayonet me, but I won't feel it. And I'm not real proud of them, but I sat down. But there were a couple guys up and down the line. One of them was a lieutenant colonel from West Point. Another one was a great big guy who played football for Penn State, and he was a Polish boy. We just called him Smitty. Well, Smitty got to me, he's just slapping the daylights out of me and cursing me, and get your behind up and get it moving. So I decided, well, I got to get up and get away.
Earl went on to say that he ended up helping another GI who was having similar problems, and that ended up saving his life during this march. The 10,000 soldiers were forced to march to a larger camp that contained 500,000 soldiers in it, and he stayed there until George Patton's group came through and liberated the camp.